Hey mama, so I just had my little one at home exactly 9 weeks ago today. I can confidently say that if you do these 6 things, you will successfully have your natural birth, barring of course any true medical complications. I know these tips work because I did them myself and I've supported so many other mamas to successfully have their natural birth by following these tips. I also want to let you know that your pain tolerance has very little to do with whether or not you're able to have a natural birth. So don't worry if you feel like you're not good with pain or you don't have a high pain tolerance, because what really matters at the end of the day is all the things you do before you even go into labor, and I'll be telling them to you right now. I also want to quickly add that tips number 5 and 6 account for 80% of the work, so make sure you stick around for those ones. First of all, the first thing I did was I had a birth plan. So I sat down with my husband and we wrote a birth plan that clearly outlined all of my preferences. I said that I wanted to push when I felt ready to, in whatever position that felt right for me. I asked for them to place a warm cloth on my perineum. I asked to be able to be in the water and to move around. I was very, very clear about everything that I wanted for my birth. I also made sure that I sat down with my midwife and I showed her my birth plan. We talked about it. She had absolutely no concerns about them. She even said to me that these are the things that she likes to do, and she was happy that I was on board with that. So it was really, really good for us because we were all on the same page going into labor. The next thing I did was that I sat down with my husband again to talk about my birth intentions. This is slightly different from the birth plan because your birth plan contains more concrete actions or preferences, but the birth intentions was basically me saying to him how I wanted to feel, how I felt like I would want to be supported during labor. I mentioned to him that it was so important that I felt safe and supported throughout the whole thing. I also didn't want to feel alone. So we made steps to talk about how, he could make me feel safe by constantly reminding me that I am safe and protected. Like everybody here is looking out for me and watching out for me. I made sure that he knew that I wanted him to be there to hold my hands. I wanted it to be a bonding experience for us. So it's very important if you're going to be going into labor with your partner to both talk about what you want. How do you want to think about birth after everything is done? Do you want to think about it and feel like it was an empowering experience? Was it a bonding experience for you both? Get really clear on how you want to remember your birth. The next 2 tips were tips that were told to me by my midwife, and the goal for these tips were to reduce my chances of needing to be medically induced. And so the first one was something called More Milk Sooner. So they have their website online. It's a really great resource, and what it is basically is hand expressing with the goal of collecting colostrum while you're still pregnant. Colostrum is the first milk that would come in when your baby is born. So you're basically trying to collect that colostrum, and this is something that you will start doing from 37 weeks. The reason you don't want to do this before 37 weeks is because it could make you go into labor. But really, that was why my midwife suggested it to me, because the process of stimulating your breast could trigger some contractions that could start softening and ripening your cervix. So this was something she had me do from 37 weeks up until when my baby was born at 40 weeks and 2 days. The next tip goes hand in hand with the last tip that I just told you, and it's using primrose oil capsules. So basically she told me that from 37 weeks I was to insert primrose oil capsules, and what that does is that it helps to soften your cervix. So when you're hand expressing and it's triggering those little contractions, the cervix is soft, and so it can help to open up your cervix, right? So I also did this along with the previous tip of hand expressing from 37 weeks up until when my baby was born. I think that this actually ended up helping because before I even went into labor, I was already sitting at 3 cm dilated because I had been having contractions for about 2 weeks before I actually went into full-on labor. Tip number 5 is so important, and it's choosing the right care provider and birth space. This is so important because some care providers, some OBs, and some midwives are more supportive of an unmedicated birth than others. So you want to make sure that you're choosing the care provider that is supportive of your goals. That's why I ended up going with a midwife, because I know that midwives tend to prioritize allowing things happen naturally, having that physiological process. And so I went with a midwife over an OB. But that was also the reason why I decided to have a home birth, because number one, when you're at home, you don't even have the option to get an epidural or get Pitocin or get some of all the to get a lot of these medications that would have been available in the hospital. But also when you're at home, you're in a comfortable space, you're familiar with it, you feel empowered, you feel safe. And so it really all around was just felt like the right option for me. Of course, there's also the option of having your baby at the birth center. It's quite similar to choosing a home birth, because when you're at the birth center, they also have a very cozy space. It's midwives that run birth centers. You know, you have the option to go in a tub. It's really, really cozy and can really replicate that feeling of being at home. So these are the reasons why I chose to go with a midwife and to stay at home. Of course, if you have a pregnancy that's complicated, where you need to have access to medical equipment, then absolutely it might be the best option for you to be at the hospital. But if your pregnancy, everything is going well, everything is normal, and you're trying to increase your chances of having a natural birth, then you really should consider having your baby at home or in a birth center and having a midwife support you. The next thing that I did was that I knew exactly what to expect in labor, and I knew some ways to manage pain naturally. This is so important because when I was going through contractions, I was feeling the pain, I was feeling the sensation. I wasn't worried at all. I felt safe because I knew that this was on track with how labor progresses. I knew that this is how you would feel. I knew that when you were pushing, you might feel the ring of fire, you know. I knew what to expect, so I wasn't worried. I just knew that I just had to manage the pain, which, because I had some tools to help me naturally manage the pain, I was also able to take the edge off. You know, I used the shower a lot to help me manage the pain. I was in the tub for about 8 hours of my entire labor because I just felt so at peace and just a lot more relaxed when I was in the birth pool. I also had my husband give me some head rubs, some counter pressure in my back, because I knew the options that I had to manage the pain naturally. And so I was just working with that and just doing the things that I needed to do to take the edge off, and it really made a lot of difference for me. On the topic of knowing what to expect, I have a childbirth course that I created, and it's so special because it's only going for $22 a month. A childbirth course such as this would usually go for $150 to about $300, but I priced it at that point because I wanted to be able to reach as many families as possible, but I also wanted to be able to grow a supportive community of moms where we can encourage each other, share our tips and tricks, and just like bond over the experience of motherhood. So you should definitely check that out. The link will be in the description. I hope to see you there. Thank you so much for watching. If you've had a natural birth yourself and you have some more tips and tricks that helps you, we would love to hear from you in the comments. Let us know, and I'll see you there. Bye.